Hi, I'm David Orlovsky, and welcome to the special Sukkos Chol edition of the Rabbi Orlovsky Show. And whether you're watching on Torah Anytime, or wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, thank you for taking out time during your yontif to be able to listen. A podcast is sort of like a murder case that, if you don't solve it in the first 48 hours, so then it gets much harder. Same thing is true with a podcast, that most of the views take place like in the first 48 hours. So I assume you're watching this during Sukkos, otherwise, it's like eating matzah on Shavuos. It has a certain appeal, but the crunch isn't quite there. Anyway, but I'm so nice to be able to be with you. We would be filming this in my sukkah, except for two reasons. One is it's so hard to move this bookcase out there. And this has become so identified with the Rabbi Orlovsky Show to the point that two couples came from America just to take their pictures in front of the bookcase. That's it. Some people go to the Geisel, some people go to my bookcase. This is the Rabbi Orlovsky Show. And we might, see if we can arrange like a green screen kind of situation, and then different people could introduce the Rabbi Orlovsky Show, and we could put on the Svarim in the background digitally. Or maybe we could just, we've always been saying we're going to make up a big poster so that you could do the Rabbi Orlovsky Show directly from your home and see if anybody watches it. But it's so nice to be able to spend this with you. So like I said, we would be doing this in my sukkah, but first of all, I'd have to move this farm out there. Second of all, the acoustics are not so good. You're outside and you're listening to all of the neighbors and all of the banging dishes and things like that. So we're in my home, where in order to be able to create the best atmosphere for you, we turned off the air conditioning and people are sweating, and just to show the amount of effort, the perspiration that we put into this show. And I've gotten many, as we're reaching the end. Well, the next podcast is going to be the anniversary show. And as we reach the end, I've been getting a whole bunch of emails about people who tell me how much they appreciate the show and how much it's really added to them, and encouraging me to continue doing this. And Mirza Hashem, hopefully we'll keep doing this. Like I say, we're almost done with a year. A previous podcast that we did before Yom Kippur about forgiveness got probably the most reaction of any podcast I did in two different directions. One is validation. There's a lot of people felt like I was hurt so badly, I'm not ready to forgive yet. And it was nice to hear that that's okay and that forgiveness is a process. And then I got a whole bunch of emails giving suggestions of how you could overcome that pain and be able to forgive somebody, and we'll probably talk about that on a later podcast. But first, I want to thank our sponsors, and this is in honor of the bar mitzvah of Yaakov Shmuel Shenker Mazel Tov, whose birthday is Hoshana Rabbah, and whose bar mitzvah will be Parshas Bereshis, Mamish, coming up. What a tremendous simcha. Yaakov is a big fan of Rabbi Orlovsky, which shows what an intelligent and incredibly morally sensitive young man he is, and of the podcast. Well, you can't get quite more discerning than that. Not every 12-year-old is able to appreciate what I say, although, to be fair, when I used to write for the Hamodia, somebody said to me, I'm so glad you write for the Hamodia, because I try reading Rebbetzin Heller's article, and it's so deep and so philosophical, and then I read your article, a 4-year-old could understand it. And I thought that was great. That was great. That's not my only story like that with Rebbetzin Heller. We were once on a panel in Manchester, in England, at a encounter conference. My good friend Rabbi Y.Y. Rubenstein was running it, brought us out. And the final question was, what's a good Jew? And Rebbetzin Heller answered essentially along the lines of the Maharal. How do you define good? Good is something that serves a purpose and does what it's supposed to do. A good cup is one that doesn't leak, things like this. And I said, you know what a good Jew is? Take a look around this room. Look at the people who came out. Yeah, to be able to spend a day learning Torah. Look at the people from Liverpool, who, even though there's a major football match, that's soccer for my American friends, today they came out here in order to be learned Torah. This is the good people. That's what a good Jew is. And there was tremendous applause. And afterwards, somebody said, Rebbetzin Heller, you're just too smart. It just goes over everybody's head. It's just too smart for people. That's why I'm glad we have Orlovsky here. He knows how to speak to the lowest common denominator. But those of us who are the podcast aficionados know how that's not true, and that there's so much depth and meaning. Normally, people don't even realize it because of the entertainment value. But I remember I had somebody once who was listening to a tape. He used to come to my shiurim just because he was having a good time. And he was listening to one of the tapes, and he says, I didn't realize it. You say a lot of deep things. I said, what are you trying to do? Kill my parnasa? Just say I'm funny. There's lots of people saying deep things, yeah? But those who, obviously this young man, Yaakov Shmuel, understands it on a deeper level, and the dedication continues. We look forward to seeing you again in Los Angeles at Anshe MS. Yeah, my good friend Rabbi Summers, who we were in yeshiva together in Eretz in 1975, Chavetz Chaim. And he was one of the people who was assigned to try to be a good influence on me, obviously unsuccessfully. And my roommate, Rory Rabovsky in Boca Raton, I'll give him a shout out. He was specifically put in my room trying to have a positive influence on me. And he always felt bad that he never achieved that. But anyway, I say, listen, you don't know how bad I would actually be if I didn't have these influences in my life. But anyway, wish you a big mazel tov, and you should have a beautiful bar mitzvah, and you could sing that song. Those two kids, was it Dustin and Aviram? They have the bar mitzvah song. They put out Eitan and Dotan. That was it. I get them mixed up all the time. Dustin and Aviram. I don't know. It was one of those two. Those when you have two names, that's why I never had twins, because I told my wife I was going to name them Eldad and Maydad, and I just thought that's just too much fun. When do you get a chance to do that? Anyway, I don't remember exactly how the song goes. Something like "On Your Bar Mitzvah Day," and it was very catchy too. My kids love that album. They used to play it all the time. So big mazel tov, and my friend Rabbi Summers, I'm sure, will be bringing me out to Los Angeles again, and it's always nice to be back in my own stomping ground. But as I mentioned, it is Sukkos, and so. I spoke last week. How Sukkos is such a special time. And I used to sit with my father in the sukkah, and we used to reflect. I want to share with you another sukkah memory, which to me was very dramatic. In America, the closest yontif you have to being nothing is Shmini Atzeres. Because since they took second day Shmini Atzeres and made it Simchas Torah, so first day Shmini Atzeres, so there's no sukkah except by Suffolk, and there's no Daled Minim. You say Tfilas Geshem, which is always a lot of fun, but for the most part it's But we here in Eretz, we do our goodbye to the sukkah on Hoshana Rabbah, just as Yaakov Shmuel was born. On Hoshana Rabbah, we left the sukkah then to go to the hospital. But we have our goodbye to the sukkah party, and in America they used to do it on Shmini Atzeres. And I remember when I was in Chavetz Chaim, so the Rosh Yeshiva would sit in the sukkah, and he would sing certain songs only during that last leaving the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. That's when he would sing certain songs, and one of them is a haunting Yiddish song. Some people know it and some people don't. We sing this in my sukkah on the first night of Sukkos, and it is so beautiful. It is in Yiddish, and as we have established many times, I don't speak Yiddish. I manage to drag my way through this song every single year. Those of you who are actual Yiddish speakers, was kommt on? Das ist mein Yiddish, and it's a bisschen schwer, aber I hope that I make up for it in how moving the song is to me. A Sוכה'לע, a Klei'na, from Brachtelach, Ga'mieinע, hab ich mir a Sוכה'לע gemacht, zu deck dem Dach, mit a bisalas chach, sitz ich mir in Sוכה'לע banacht. A Sוכה'לע, a Klei'na, a little sukkah. From boards, gämieinע, I make it. And so I made myself a sukkah. And I covered the roof mit a bisalas schach, with a little schach. Sitz ich mir in Sוכה'לע banacht. I sit in my sukkah at night. A ווינט, a Kאlטן, bläst durch die Spalten, und der Lächterlach, sie lächeln sich viel. Is mir a חידוש, weil ich mach mir קידוש. And the לעכטעלעך, they brennt ganz still. There's a cold wind blowing through the cracks, and the candles look like they're going to get blown out. And to me, it's a חידוש when I'm making קידוש, and the lights, the candles are burning so still. Zum Ersten Gericht, mit der bläusen Gesicht, brennt mir mein Tächterlach rein. Sie stellt sich weg und sagt mit Schreck, Tattala, the Sukkah fällt bald ein. The first course, with a pale face, my daughter brings in. She stands back and she says with fear, Tattala, the Sukkah fällt, the Sukkah is about to fall down. Sei nicht kein Narr, hab nicht kein Zar, soll dir die Sukkah nicht tan bang. Don't be a nar, don't be worried, Sukkah is not going to fall down. Is schon gar, bald 2000 Jahr. And the Sוכה'לע, sie steht nach ganz lang. Ai, 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 ai. Im ist schon gar. It already is. About 2000 Jahre. About 2000 years. And the Sוכה'לע, die steht nach ganz lang. A Jew lives in a sukkah. For 2000 years we've been living in a sukkah. Because our real sukkah came down. Harachamanu yakim u yakim lahanu as Sukkos David hanofales. Right? The base of Mikdash is described as a sukkah that falls down. It's a sukkah. And we say that we want to rebuild the sukkah, meaning the base of Mikdash. And I'm just putting it out there because I know there are many musical people who appreciate this podcast, and I'm reaching out to them from the bottom of my heart. You must write a different tune to those words. It just drives me crazy. It just goes on and on. Harachamanu yakim lanu as Sukkos David hanofales. Harachamanu yakim lanu as Sukkos David hanofales. Harachamanu yakim. How long can you do that? You have to sing that for a week. That's the only Sukkah song. Okay, but that's more generic, yeah? But the only Harachamanu yakim, and that's it? You need something a little more lively. Yeah? Sometimes tunes are like that. They just seem to repeat themselves. You know, there's only like one part. One's a little higher than the other. So my musical people out there, I'm hoping that next year's podcast on Sukkos, I'm going to sing your Harachamon. I might even have you on the show if you can get to Israel. Anyway, if not, I'll just send you a copy of the bookcase and you can... I'll talk to you long distance. What a beautiful song. It's so moving, so haunting. We sit outside in the sukkah and we sing it. And we think the sukkah is going to fall down. It's amazing. We're not in the worst time of Jewish history. I know any time is the worst time of Jewish history. Yeah. But I mean, we've gone through some pretty rough times. Yeah. Where in Sukkah discussed the Shas Zakana, when they weren't allowed to build a sukkah, and how they had to build it in secret. I had a Rebbe in Hank, Rebbe Warman, who was in Germany before the war, and he describes how they used to build their sukkah on their porch under the wall so that the people couldn't see it. It was a very low sukkah that they'd be able to go in and sit in. So we had some rough times. Today, of course, the anti-Semitic events are on the rise, but it's not like where they're killing people in the streets, which are periods of time that we had. There were no actual pogroms taking place. I mean, let's keep things in perspective, you know. It's not nice when you come to your shul and there's a swastika sprayed on the outside, but it's not the same thing as when they used to club Jews in the streets. So I'm saying we're not in the worst time. We went through some pretty rough years where it looked like Torah Judaism was not going to survive. David Ben-Gurion once said he wanted to preserve Mea Shearim as a museum so people can see what Judaism used to look like. And people don't remember Baruch Hashem today when you see Torah Judaism growing. I had a fellow in Sameach, he told me when he was growing up in England, his father used to take him down. They didn't keep Shabbos, but Sunday morning they used to go down to the old Jewish neighborhood. We'd buy lox and bagels and herring, and he'd say, "Take a whiff, children. This is Judaism." That's what remained. That's what people had. And a sukkah. I had a brother who didn't become Shomer Shabbos until later in life, but he was looking to buy a house. So my father said there was they used to give you a way to know if it was a Jewish neighborhood. Drive around in December, and if you don't see too many holiday lights up, then it's probably a Jewish neighborhood. But this was like September, October. So my father said, he says, "My father, what am I supposed to do?" So he says, "Well, drive around and look for sukkahs." Yeah. So he drove around, and he finally came to Willowbrook in Staten Island. He found a lot of sukkahs. But here's the fly in the ointment. If there's no holiday lights, that tells me that there's Jews. If there's a lot of sukkahs, it tells me that they're religious Jews. And so suddenly he ended up in a very frum neighborhood. Yeah. And so it was always a little embarrassing on Saturday morning when he would drive to work and there's all the people going to shul. Yeah. But a sukkah is something that's it's way past matzo ball soup. It's way past bagels and cream cheese. You know, it's way past Passover Seder or Yom Kippur. A sukkah is something that is intimate, and that's why a lot of people don't keep it. Yeah. It's how many people even know about Sukkos or understand what it's about. When I was growing up, Rosh Hashanah everybody knew about, Yom Kippur everybody knew about, Passover everybody knew about. No one knew about Shavuos. No one knew about Sukkos. These holidays didn't make it in. I knew a guy who was working in Manhattan, and he took off for different holidays and things, and so he tells the boss, he says, I can't come in, whatever it was, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Shavuos. He comes the next day, he says, there are two other Jews working in this firm. None of them ever heard of Shavuos. You're just making it up. Shavuos, Sukkos, it's 2 out of the 3 of the Shalosh Regalim just didn't make it in big time. Yeah, it's so interesting among there's certain groups of Christians who are very careful. I knew a fellow who used to make his living selling Dalit Minim to Christians. They wanted to have a set, the 4 species because it's in the Bible. Yeah? And they would celebrate tabernacles, Sukkos. They'd build their little tabernacles. And it's an amazing thing that there are probably more Christians keeping it than Jews. I'm not sure if that's a true statistic, but neither do you, so I can say anything I want. Anyway, but Sukkos, the Hakodesh says, the Gemara says, ideally a sukkah should have 4 walls. It's kosher with 3 walls. And it's even kosher with 2 walls and a tzuras of Pesach, a little doorway. And that's, in fact, the word sukkah. The samach is surrounded on all sides. The chaf is surrounded on 3 sides. And the hay is 2 walls and a tzuras of Pesach. That's the word sukkah. But the Hakodesh says, you know what 2.5 walls are? That's how you take somebody around. 1, 2, and a little piece over here. You go in the sukkah and the Kadosh Baruch Hu is taking you around. It's something special. It's beautiful. It's intimate. And it's a pity that people miss out on it. People don't get a chance to be able to experience it. And I spoke about this when we spoke about our Pesach Chol Moed, forced Tiolim time with the family. One day I'm going to have my perfect Sukkos. I'm going to stay in my sukkah. There's so many people, they're busy running around, going to attractions. That's what we call it over here. Attractions. Yeah, they go to attractions, they go to things, they go on trips, instead of just sitting in the sukkah. Okay, so there's all those traveling sukkah tricks. If you have a van, you can open the 2-pack doors and put schach on top of it. They came out with inflatable sukkahs. There are people who can have snap-together sukkahs. Yeah, what can I tell you? I've always been a sucker for a sukkah that you could just inflate. But to be able to sit in my sukkah, a beautiful thing. It's such an opportunity to be able to spend it together as much as you can. Take advantage of your sukkah if you can. If you have little kids and you have to do things with them, that's great. Hopefully you reach the point where the older children will take the younger children away and you can stay in your sukkah. Fear tish in your sukkah. Sit in your sukkah. People come in, have a piece of cake. Yeah, it's always nice. It's always nice to have a piece of cake, but have it in the sukkah. That's like a leishev basukkah. Yeah, it's a great time. It's the only chance you get to use that terrible, terrible joke. What bracha do you make if you sit on a piece of bubble gum? Leishev bazooka. You can use that one. Yes, you too. I'll teach you how to do this. It's not so hard. Anyway, but it's so beautiful. A beautiful time to be able to be in the sukkah, just to be able to enjoy it. And that's it. Zman simchaseinu. There is not a time of year when we waste more money. I mean waste money. I'm going to put this into absolute terms. On a normal day, what would you pay for a palm branch? Not much. Trust me on this. Yeah? The Gemara used to say they would buy them and separate them and tie them together and make a broom. Who's paying for palm branches? Of course, on Sukkos, for a good lulav. I don't know, it's so hard to find a good lulav. But if you find a good lulav, I love those, the big, thick green ones, But they send them all to America along with all the good fruit. We get the leftover fruit here in Israel. But, of course, the export. But what you pay for lulav. Citron. The citron market is surprisingly extremely limited. They're basically lemons with bumps. You never find them selling them in the supermarket because there's not that much of a demand for a citron. Might as well get a lemon. Yeah. So, if they sold them as a fruit, how much would they go a pound? Go back and get a bag of esrogim. They wouldn't cost too much. But here, for Sukkos. So you spend all this money on an esrog, all this money on lulav, hadas, a ravos. Willow branches, trust me, nobody wants those. And as soon as Sukkot is over, they have no value. The kids go around and collect the esrogim, thinking that their mother will make it into esrog jelly. Some people do. But between me and you, very small market for esrog jelly. You don't find people going out. They go to buy jelly. They want grape. They want strawberry. Yeah, nobody's looking to buy themselves esrog jelly. It's just not that popular. Yeah, it's supposed to do something with them, I guess. But considering what you paid for it, do you have any idea how much this jelly is costing you? Yeah. We waste money. Spend it on things. It's probably the most expensive holiday. I mean, assuming that you don't insist on buying chabura hand matzahs and buying every product that comes out on Pesach. If you have pretty simple, I know somebody I know who, when people come to him, they're collecting for Kimcha the Pischa, they need money for their matzahs. He says, I will buy you all your matzahs for Pesach. Same place I do. In Osha'ad, I buy hand matzahs, in the back. He goes, no, I only get from a special chabur. He says, then you don't need my money. You're too rich. I'm not rich enough to buy chabur matzahs. Assuming you buy regular matzahs and you don't try to buy the fanciest type of things, eggs and dairy products and, meat and chicken, like during the year, you'll find that Pesach is not as expensive as Sukkos. And the sukkah and the sukkah decorations and the food for the meals and the daled minim. And that's why we read on Sukkos Hevel, Hevel, I call Hevel. All the money and all the stuff, it's not important. It's not important. How much we put into these things, how much we're worried about getting the finest things. We leave our fancy house and we go into a sukkah and we live in a little house without a roof. And we sit with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because whether we realize it or not, that's how we live our whole life. About 2000 Jahre. And the Sוכה'לע, die steht nach ganz lang. 2,000 years we've been living in a sukkah. As the Chafetz Chaim said to a person who asked him, where's all your furniture and your curtains and your carpet? And he said, I'm just passing through. We're just living in a sukkah. This world is temporary. This world is a prusdor to the traklin of Olam Haba, to the banquet hall. And here we're not living. We're in a sukkah. We live temporary. We live simply. You can live very nicely simply. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But Rabbi Wein tells the story when he was a Rav in Miami and he had a chavrusa with this Rebbe. He says we were sitting in our backyard under the spreading grapefruit tree. And the Rebbe says, we have to remember that this is Golus. But as Golus goes, it's not so bad. It's okay. We can have a very comfortable sukkah, a beautiful sukkah. Yeah. I think I mentioned last time about my sleeping sukkah. The wall of the merpeset. I roll out the schach and I crawl in there, and it's delightful, delightful. And you can be comfortable in the sukkah, but you have to remember. Our life is eventually to get back to Eretz and build Sukkos David HaNofalos, the base of Mikdash. That's our only real place in this world. When Yaakov Avinu comes to the Har Bayis, he says, "Man noira hamakom hazeh," this makom, because the only makom that we have is the base of Mikdash. Why? Because we gave Esav Olam Hazeh and we took Olam Haba. The story of Chaim Shmulevitz, he says, what kind of an idiot is Esav? You trade Olam Haba for Olam Hazeh. What's Olam Hazeh? Piece of black bread and a turnip. For that you give up Olam Haba? He says, then I got to America and I saw Esav wasn't so stupid. But because we gave Esav this world, what do we have in this world? There's only one makom that we have, and that's why when Yaakov goes away to build Klal Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure he stops in the Har Bayis. The makom ha-mikdash, ma-noira ha-makom hazeh. This is the place. This is the essence of where a Jew lives, in the Sukkos David, in the dwelling of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the Shechina hanging above us. Somebody wrote in. He was so impressed when we sang Bilvavi. He sent in the words to be able to put onto the video down there where it's you can see the notes. He says that everyone should be able to sing along. And I guess we'll put up the words here to Sukkah'l'a if you want to print them out and sing them with your family. And enjoy Sukkos. What a beautiful, beautiful time to be able to sit in the Sukkah. The Kadosh Baruch Hu holding his arm around us being able to enjoy, not worried about all the physicality. Hevel, I call it Hevel, I'm a callous. It's all nothing. It's all, Hevel is a steam, it's an illusion. It's all nothing. The amount of time and effort people spend on stuff. Amazing thing. So, Mit Hashem, v'samachta b'chagecha. Let's be happy on this beautiful, beautiful Yontif. And next week is our anniversary, our first anniversary show. So anyone who would like to send in special anniversary greetings, maybe we'll read them on the show. And because we've got to kill some time on the anniversary show. And that's it for this week. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to rabbiorlovsky.com. You could leave a comment on this episode. You could sponsor an episode. You're going to have to get in there because we're getting a lot of sponsors. A lot of people realize what an opportunity this is. So we're backed up in our sponsorships. We'll fit you in because I like you. Yeah. K-E-Y. Why? Because we like you. And you can find out about upcoming events and all kinds of nifty things. And that's it. You should have a beautiful Sukkos. I'm David Orlovsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlovsky Show.